Hey guys, coming to you with week 4 of the Insideout-life reflections and talking today about the idea of rhythms of grace and springboarding off week 1 where we talked about busyness and the idea of creating more space for God in our lives. I find myself continuing to have conversations with different people around this idea that sort of post-COVID or post-lockdown we have life is getting busy and full again, and there's this deep hunger for life to remain simpler and a bit more spacious. And I've been reflecting about this idea for worship times, the gathered worship times, and those of us that lead those times, that for many, that's like the one moment in their week where they have space to come to be present to God and what He's doing, and also to be present to kind of what's going on in their own lives as well. We just have these sacred moments that we are entrusted with. And as worship leaders, I think it's key for us as well that we are creating space in our own lives to be refreshed and renewed, connecting with God constantly, so that we're not leading out of an empty tank. I think God wants to invite us into a deep abiding of Him so that we can lead others into those times of abiding in Him, not necessarily of Him, abiding in Him. And I think what we have, post-COVID, I don't know whether we're post-COVID, but, post this big pause that we've had, is a unique opportunity and a unique moment to actually recreate some of these rhythms in our lives and to make some choices, some deliberate choices about what we want to integrate back into our lives. I'm reminded of Jesus' words in Matthew 11, where He says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." And I just love the Message translation's wording. It says, "Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me and watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace." I just love this language. It talks about a real rest. And later in the chapter it says, "I'll teach you how to live freely and lightly." I just find myself like doing a physical exhale as I read these words. It's like, oh, yes, that's what I'm longing for. And my sense is, as we step into this new era, this new post-COVID season, whatever it is that we're in, that God is actually inviting us to something deeper. And what He's inviting us to is to walk with Him and learn the unforced rhythms of grace, to actually reshape some of our daily schedules and our practices so that we can create space to be able to function and to minister out of a deep place of rest. I remember being at a creative conference a couple of years back, and one of the guests was Brenton Brown, who's a great songwriter from South Africa, and he's written some great songs, Everlasting God and All Who Are Thirsty, just among a few that he's written. And someone asked him, when does he write his best songs? When is he most creative? And his answer was quite disarming. He said something to the effect of, "It's actually when I'm most rested. I'm at my creative best when I'm at my most rested, when I am feeling refueled after I've been for a surf, after I've, had a meal with some friends, something that energizes him." And I think there's a really big principle here around moving and working and ministering out of a place of rest, especially for creatives and worship leaders, but actually for all humans. God Himself structured our week with a day of rest intentionally. After He's done His creative work, God rested, as we read in Genesis. But I think there's actually more to it than just one day off a week. And there are some excellent resources around this idea of Sabbath and that sort of thing. So I'll post some links to some really great tools that are available out there. Well, some of my favorites anyway. But just 2 thoughts very quickly. And I think one is around daily rhythms. And I've said it in an earlier week that around creating a buffer, not trying to pack too much into our days, creating spaces to meet with God throughout our days, creating rhythms of connecting with Him. There's a great book called The Daily Office by Pete Scazzero, and he takes people through morning and afternoon prayers. There's that one. There's another fantastic app called by 24/7 Prayer, which I will also post a link to. Ways to just integrate these moments of pause and rest into our day. But there's another great principle which I call the 2/3 rule. And this was something I learned in YWAM years ago, and we would structure our day using the 2/3 rule. And it's basically breaking your day into 3/3, morning, afternoon, evening. And 2 of those thirds are allowed to be work time, productivity time. One of those thirds needs to be rest and something that refuels you, it might be downtime, or it might be stuff that intentionally refuels you. Keep 1/3 free from work. And I love that principle, and I think it's a fantastic way in your week to protect some of your rest times. The second one is weekly and yearly rhythms. And I know it's very simple, but it's often the hardest to keep. Make sure you have your day off. Don't feel your day off. And if you're working on a Sunday like many worship leaders are, have another day off. Make sure you protect it and guard it. Don't open your computer. Don't answer emails. Don't answer your phone, if they're work related. Communicate to people really well that you won't be responding to them on your day off. I know it's hard and it can seem a bit mean, but you need to protect those times. And a true Sabbath also is not just about rest, but it's about worship. So find a way that you can connect with your Creator on those times as well. Sometimes you actually do need to do nothing. And I find as a creative, sometimes I need to get bored before I can actually be re-energized enough to be creative again. So don't be afraid of doing nothing. Don't be afraid of being bored. And thirdly, just say no. It's really hard, I know, but learn to say no, learn to protect your boundaries. Because I really believe, especially as ministry leaders, that God is wanting us to learn how to move out of His rhythms of grace. Have a great week. See you guys.